Is it summer yet? Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Joe, and first time here, hit that subscribe button down below. Really appreciate it. And new review, as always, it is Layne Norton's PHAT program, P-H-A-T. His Power Hypertrophy Adaptive Training program. Why he called it that, I have no idea. It's a power building program. That's literally what it is. So, my thoughts on that. Now, before I get into the program itself, Layne Norton, a lot of you, probably most of you, have heard of him before. You know, he's very popular on social media. He seems like a really smart guy. He's a PhD in nutrition sciences. He has a ton of connections in the fitness industry himself. But when it comes to who likes him, who doesn't, it's going to depend who you really ask. Some people do like him, think he's really smart. Some people, not so much. Like I said, it's going to depend who you really ask. I personally have met Layne Norton before and talked with him a little bit. He seemed like a good guy, smart guy. I saw a lecture from him, all right? And I know some really smart people, connections with them, who think and have connections with Layne Norton himself and thinks that he's a really smart guy too. So I think he is actually a very smart guy. He just has some controversial things around him in the past. There was one recently with Chad Wesley Smith, calling him out for not giving him credit for helping Layne Norton with his back issues he had in the past, you know, stuff like that. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about his program and review it, his PHAT program. Some of you have requested this one. So it is, like I said, a power building program. And overall, I did actually like it quite a lot. There's just a few things that I would personally change or have a slight different opinion when it comes to how he did some of the programming. So, getting into the program itself, it is a 5-day-a-week program. The first 2 days, day 1 and day 2, are around the power lifting type of day. It's a power day. So, trying to increase your strength in your squat, your bench, and your deadlift, those sort of things. And then you take a rest day, and then the next 3 days after that are hypertrophy-focused days. So it, again, has a mix of the two. And the way he did it, I think, actually was quite good. Now, this is not a beginner's program at all, okay? I wouldn't even say it's necessarily an intermediate program. It's an advanced program. It's very high tense, very high intensity, very high volume. It's going to kick your ass, okay? It's not going to be an easy program to do. Will it work? Yeah, I believe it absolutely will be effective and help you out. But it's not going to be an easy program to follow. Because of this, he has it, like I said, 5 days a week over the span of 6 days. So like I said, the day 1, day 2, then rest on day 3, then 4, 5, and 6, and then rest on day 7. The way I would make it for at least the first 2 or 3 weeks is that I would actually rest after that 6th day or day 5, 2 days. So instead of just resting on day 7 and then going right into day 1 again, rest 2 days. Give you a little bit extra recovery. Like I said, just for the first few weeks or so. Just until your body fully adapts. Because you are going to be sore those first few weeks. Really sore. And he talks about this in the explanation for the program. And speaking of his explanation for this, it's a free program that you can get. And it's accompanied by an article. And I'll link it down below, guys. And he does a pretty good job of explaining the program in this article. What it's all about, why he designed it this way, the type of training frequency it is, his science behind that, how to do this program overall, why he designed it this way, why it worked for him, and why he thinks it'll work for you. He provides pretty much every important thing. There are a couple things that he should have included in the article. Wouldn't have taken up much space. I'll get to that in just a second. But he does include quite a good amount of explanation for it. Remember, it's a free program, so don't expect this huge pamphlet or program thing like you would from some of the other programs that I reviewed, like from Jeff Nippert or Barbell Medicine or something like that, okay? It's basically just an article that he provides the program with, and providing explanations of the principles behind this program. Now, getting back into the program itself, like I said, it's very high intensity, but that first 2 days with the power building ones, it starts off with, again, compound movements, then getting a little bit more into isolation type movement. He bases it around different types of pressing and pulling movements. So like the squat is a pressing movement, and then he categorizes some of those as well. So some exercises he categorizes as a main pressing movement, and then an assistance pressing movement, or an auxiliary pressing movement. For example, on one day he has pull-ups, which he considers an assistance pulling movement, followed by chin-ups, which he categorizes as an auxiliary pulling movement. Okay, nothing wrong with this at all. I think this is perfectly fine. A lot of you might think, well, that's the same type of movement. In reality, no, it's not. Okay, doing pull-ups this way versus this way is a bit different. Okay, it will get a little bit different muscles. This one involves your biceps a lot more, and it will get a slightly different part of your back versus this way. So the way he has it done overall, I think, is fine. Now, the one thing I would do a little bit different, this is what I talked about in the beginning about my slight difference in opinion, which is the order of the exercises. Now, the way he has it on a lot of the days is some of those days, like those hypertrophy days, it does pressing, 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 and then pulling, pulling, pulling. That's fine. I don't think that's wrong or anything like that, but I personally would have done it a little bit differently, meaning I would have done maybe a pressing, then pulling, pressing, pulling, pressing, pulling, or something like that. And there are some exercises that I would have done earlier on in the workout versus having them at the end of that workout, like he does. Like the seated shoulder press, dumbbell shoulder press, he has towards the end of one of the workouts. I would have put that a little bit more towards the beginning, just because it can be a pretty fatiguing exercise. And some of the other exercises he had before that aren't quite as fatiguing. They're still pretty fatiguing, but not quite as much as a seated shoulder press. So I would have placed that ahead a little bit more. So I just had a little bit of difference in terms of exact structure that I had for it. If you wanted to follow it exactly how he has it, nothing wrong with that. Again, it's going to be really tough. If you're an advanced lifter, you'll get through it just fine. Okay, but I personally would have changed it up just a little bit. But the overall progression is perfectly fine, because on those power days, he gives you, for example, the squat, or for the bench or the deadlift, he gives you percentages to start with. And the percentages he has you doing are good percentages, and it ramps up each week, those percentages. Not huge, only about 2.5% or so, but it still follows good progressive overload. And he emphasizes on one of those days to be in max effort day. And then you kind of repeat those squats again on those hypertrophy days, or the benches, or the deadlifts. But with being on a hypertrophy day, there's more of a speed focus for it, or what you can consider like a dynamic effort type of thing. So you're not moving quite as heavy, you're focusing more again on that speed and explosiveness of it. So this is perfectly fine. It's a non-linear periodization, this total program. That's what it is. And it's done quite well. There's a ton of volume when it comes to this program as well, but the volume he has with it is perfectly fine. Okay, each muscle group is getting hit twice a week. Okay, that is optimal. The research suggests, such as the one from Brad Schoenfeld et al., that hitting muscle groups twice per week is superior to just once a week. Not a huge difference in going above that, say up to like 3 or 4 times a week. I don't know anybody who would try and do it 4 times a week, but not a huge difference between 2 times a week versus 3 times a week. So the way he has it here is fine, and like I said, the volume is definitely there for optimal hypertrophy. Not so much on the power part of it, that's not really concentration of it, much less volume for that, but again, overall, focusing on developing that strength and that power behind your main lifts. And this goes into my next part here I want to talk about, which is some of those things that are missing, or I think he should have included. The first one, everybody should know what I'm going to talk about, the exercise substitutions. Okay, he gives you the exercises to do, but there's some things you can do a little bit differently. Of course, you can always substitute an exercise as long as it maintains or follows that main structure of the program. He should have included a little section on that. He easily could have, okay? And if you haven't seen my video on how to make exercise substitutions, you can right up here, clicking on it there, watch that, should help you out. And then the other thing that he probably could have linked to was maybe his YouTube channel showing exercise technique to making sure that you're doing it well. Now, this is, again, like I said, a free program. You're kind of expected to go find a lot of the other stuff kind of on your own when it comes to a free program. Okay, but he still should have linked. He easily could have just linked to his YouTube channel or YouTube videos that you could have followed. So he should have certainly done that. But those are the two main things that I think he should have included. Other than that, guys, good program, very high intensity. Maybe change out the order of the exercises a little bit. But other than that, I'd say if you're an advanced lifter looking to do something a bit different, that I think absolutely could work, as long as you know what you're doing, especially in that technique-wise, then you can certainly give this one a shot. Don't do it year-round, okay? Just follow maybe the program once, see how you're feeling after that. Take the proper deloads when you need to, and it explains when to take those deloads. And also, like I recommended, in those first few weeks, take 2 rest days after you finish the first week, the second week, and maybe even that third week, okay, before moving on to the next week. But other than that, guys, I think you might enjoy this one. So that is my review of Layne Norton's PHAT program. I'm giving it an 9 out of 10. Good program, just missing a few things, and the exercise order, I just think, personally, should be a little bit different. But I hope you enjoyed that review for this one. If you have another suggestion, make sure you include it down below, guys, and I will see you next week.